Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
I'm going to take up a philosophical subject today, based on understanding, or some understanding, looking into what are the modes of material nature and how they manifest, particularly what is the mode of goodness. Of course, this could be a very big discussion, but I want to focus it on one particular issue. Anyway, I'll bring that up. I'll first of all read from Srila Prabhupada's translation and commentary to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text number 6. Tatra sattvang nimala atvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sangena bhatnati jnana sangena chanaga. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Purport: the living entities conditioned by material nature are of various types. One is happy, another is very active, and another is helpless. All these types of psychological manifestations are causes of the entity's conditioned status in nature. How they are differently conditioned is explained in this section of Bhagavad Gita. The mode of goodness is first considered. The effect of developing the mode of goodness in the material world is that one becomes wiser than those otherwise conditioned. A man in the mode of goodness is not so much affected by material miseries, and he has a sense of advancement in material knowledge. The representative type is the Brahmana, who is supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness. This sense of happiness is due to understanding that in the mode of goodness one is more or less free from sinful reactions. Actually, in the Vedic literature, it is said that the mode of goodness means greater knowledge and a greater sense of happiness. The difficulty here is that when a living entity is situated in the mode of goodness, he becomes conditioned to feel that he is advanced in knowledge and is better than others. In this way, he becomes conditioned. The best examples are the scientist and the philosopher. Each is very proud of his knowledge, and because they generally improve their living conditions, they feel a sort of material happiness. The sense of advanced happiness in conditioned life makes them bound by the mode of goodness of material nature. As such, they are attracted toward working in the mode of goodness, and as long as they have an attraction for working in that way, they have to take some type of body in the modes of nature. Thus, there is no likelihood of liberation or of being transferred to the spiritual world. Repeatedly, one may become a philosopher, a scientist, or a poet, and repeatedly become entangled in the same disadvantages of birth and death. But due to the illusion of the material energy, one thinks that sort of life is pleasant. Recently I was giving Bhagavatam class in Vrindavan, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada spoke of the uselessness, the futility of everything except Krishna consciousness. Everything without Krishna consciousness is a failure. So I mentioned in the class some things like ecological activities and promoting vegetarianism, save the whale, and animals' rights, and how all of these are just another phase of illusion and are in and of themselves useless. This was considered insensitive by some. Anyway, at the end, the question, a devotee raised the question, said, well, these activities in the mode of goodness, they help one to rise to Krishna consciousness. So, then afterwards I made a little study of what is the mode of goodness. Are these activities actually in the mode of goodness? Is it in the mode of goodness to promote animals' rights, etc.? Ecological, what's that word? Preservation, conservation. All these different things. Are they in the mode of goodness? Well, we can examine from Shastra. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Uddhav Gita, Lord Krishna describes some of the symptoms of the mode of goodness. Mind and sense control. Well, that's got nothing to do with any of those things. And generally these people, they have no concept even of mind and sense control. So that's not there. Tolerance, that's also not particularly a quality that they try to develop. They're quite intolerant of. Of course, tolerance here, generally when we see the word tolerance in how it's used in the Sanskrit, we tend to think, when we see tolerance, we think that should mean, well, tolerance of live and let live. Jio or jene do. You know that? Live and let live. Hindi. So live and let live. But tolerance in the Shastra, when the word is used, tolerance, without any further qualifier, it means tolerance of sukh, dukh, happiness, distress, heat, cold, hunger, thirst. It's related to sense and mind control. That it's rather than tolerance of others' opinion. That the modern use of the word is more like that we should tolerate other people, their opinions. So tolerance of the difficulties of material life. Discrimination is all symptoms of the mode of goodness. Discrimination in modern English, if it's used without a qualifier, usually means to discriminate against other races, against other religions, against women, although we don't hear anything about discrimination against men, but we hear a lot about discrimination against women, discrimination against homosexuals, so this is discrimination. But here, discrimination means to discriminate between right and wrong, to understand what is correct and what is not correct. So this ecological conservation, we're not saying it's a bad thing, but it's not in and of itself related to these qualities. Truthfulness, mercy, well, we could say vegetarianism promotes mercy. So there's a plus for that. Careful study of the past and future. Well, they might study the past and future in their ecological conservation plans, but not carefully, because they only see matter. There's no discrimination between spirit and matter. So it's all very much on the mundane platform. We find here in Bhagavad Gita, in this section of this chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which I read the verse from, Lord Krishna says, Sattvang sanjayate jnanam, Sattvagun gives rise to knowledge, and that knowledge specifically means the knowledge by which one discriminates between spirit and matter, the Sattvic lifestyle. But in all these programs that, like I was saying, promoting vegetarianism, animals' rights, conservation and all this, they're all based on the illusion that we're here in this world to enjoy it. So that's not in the Sattva Gun. That's the very basis of it is Rajasic. The mode of passion, here it's stated, is born of unlimited desires of longings, and because of this, the embodied living being is bound to material fruitive actions. So we could say that it's all these programs, they're closer to the mode of goodness than programs like Kill the Whale and Open Slaughterhouses, which are these are impelled by the mode of passion, the desire for money, and the mode of ignorance by which one can inflict suffering on others without caring for that. So, to be a vegetarian it's the influence of the mode of goodness is there more. As it's stated here, in the Bhagavatam, in this section, the combination of all the three modes is present in the mentality of I and mine. So, when we speak of the mode of goodness, there's it's always mixed. You don't find the pure, just fully pure mode of goodness in this world, because there's always some sense of I and mine. There's an interesting, in the purport there's some interesting commentary that if someone was completely in the mode of goodness, in the commentary, one completely absorbed in the mentality of being peaceful, that being peaceful is supposed to be Sattvika. If one was totally peaceful, then he couldn't do any work in the material world. You just be so peaceful that you tolerate hunger so much that you just sit and you wouldn't do anything. Of course, that would be you wouldn't even eat. You have to do something. What is that? Lord Krishna says, Nahi Shakasya Chinapi. That one has to. Yeah, what is that?
You to maintain the body.
Yeah. What's the Sanskrit for that? No. Necessary. Anyway, whatever it is, one has to work, even to make sharira. I forgot it. Nahi na prasidhyada karmana. Sharira yatrapi chatena prasidhyada karmana. That even to maintain the body, one has to do some work. But then, if one simply, out of lack of impetus, that he's so much peaceful and tolerant of everything that he didn't eat anything, and then the body just faded away and died, well, that would be a symptom of the mode of ignorance, because one should have the discrimination to see that now I have to do something to maintain the body. So there is no pure mode of goodness. Similarly, one absorbed in lust would be blinded, I'm reading the purport here, without at least a tinge of peacefulness or restraint. If one's completely lusty, then you just like an animal jump on the first woman he sees. But people, there's some restraint, because they have that some discrimination is there. At least the discrimination is there to think that, well, I'll be punished by the law if I just indulge my lusty desires without any restraint. So the modes, they all work together. Again, in the mode of ignorance, which is characterized by blind anger, the comment is here, one overwhelmed with anger could not function properly in the material world without the mixture of the other qualities. People who get angry a lot, well, they can't function very well in the material world, but they couldn't function at all if they were only just like angry all the time. Then they're considered mentally disturbed. And actually, we can say that people who are mentally disturbed, it's an increase in the mode of ignorance. People who they can't function in the world because they're so much overcome by anger, illusion. Like a paranoia, people think everyone wants to kill me. People have paranoia. So these are all symptoms of the mode of ignorance. So thus we find that a material mode does not occur in a pure isolated form, but rather is mixed with other modes, thereby making possible normal functioning within this world. So, all all these programs which we think, well, they're very good, they're for the improvement of human society, they're to not only human society but to make the world better and to protect other species. We can't say they're purely in the mode of goodness, or even there are many of these symptoms of the mode of goodness. Here are some more. Satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master. Where does that fit into Save the Whale? Being embarrassed at improper action, charity, simplicity, humbleness and satisfaction within oneself are qualities of the mode of goodness. So it would seem that the underlying, I already said that the basis of all these programs is the idea that the universe is here and it's to be enjoyed, and instead of thinking just my enjoyment, it should be enjoyed by all species of life. But it's based on ignorance of the actual purpose of life. Now also Sattva Gun, it's traditionally the traditional understanding or the Shastric understanding of this is that it is meant to lead to enlightenment. It is specifically, the Sattvic lifestyle is specifically based on self-realization, which all these programs, they're not. Now, even being a vegetarian is not necessarily the vegetarian diet is sattvic, because eating lots of chilies or tamarind, that's not sattvic. And onions and garlic are classified as vegetarian. But actually the word we don't find the word vegetarian in the Shastra. We find Amisham, which there's a category of foods which are considered Amish, which means meat, fish, eggs, onions, garlic. They all come in the same category. So it's not called Shakaha, is the modern Hindi word, but it's in the same category. So, and apparently there's some stories in the Puranas we've heard that, but I've never been given a clear reference that these the onions and garlic are produced from the buried intestines of a cow that was slaughtered. Some stories there like that. Anyway, it's clearly these are considered foods which are not touchable for persons who are cultivating Sattva Gun. So, yeah, these activities, they may be less of the intense mode of passion and ignorance, and you could say closer to the mode of goodness, but we can't say they're actually in the mode of goodness, because there's no idea of self-realization there. Sattvam sanjayate jnanam, the sattva gun that leads to self-realization, that helps one to come towards self-realization. But simply being a vegetarian doesn't help one to come towards self-realization. In sattva gun, one, just like here, faith in the spiritual master. So that means study of Shastra. Now, Krishna consciousness is on the transcendental platform. It's beyond Sattva Gun. So, generally the activities of Sattva Gun, they parallel those of Krishna consciousness. But in Krishna consciousness, there's clear knowledge of the purpose of life, to serve Krishna. And by acting in Krishna consciousness, one transcends even the mode of goodness. So it's higher, it's better, it's not within the modes of nature. Although Sattva Gun is better than the lower modes, because in the lower modes of nature the consciousness becomes of the need for self-realization is completely lost. So again, I don't see that consciousness of the need for self-realization is being cultivated by or gives rise to The idea that this world is a place of misery and we should act in such a way to get freed from that. So there's no such idea in these various altruistic movements. So, or people say like Mother Teresa of Calcutta in the mode of goodness, all this, but how? How is it in the mode of goodness? You can say it's less ghastly than opening slaughterhouses, but her picking dying people off the street where they've lived all their lives and giving them a bed in her home to die on, it doesn't really help people in any way. Leper colonies without Krishna consciousness doesn't help ultimately anyone. So it seems that many of our devotees have they confuse mundane altruism with sattva gun, which it isn't. It's not as bad as grossly sinful activities, but it doesn't help one to advance towards the ultimate goal of life. So I'd say that's a misconception. You'd like to say anything about that, Maharaj?
Yeah, sometimes people who advocate giving protection to the whales, they also advocate at a different time that it's quite alright to abort their children.
Right, yeah.
So, what kind of discrepancy is
Yeah.
It means they don't really understand.
They have no understanding, yeah. They save the whale because they're all... The whales are going to be extinct, and for some reason or other people, they don't mind that thousands of cows can be killed or babies can be aborted, but as long as it doesn't go extinct, it should remain... No species should go extinct, because the world should be preserved as it is for the future generations to enjoy. It's this very strange...
Not about... And also the idea of extinction, we don't accept.
Yeah, we don't accept that either.
Planets and the species.
And they may be here also. Apparently there is still plenty of, well, not so many, but there are dinosaurs around. You must know about that, right? Dinosaurs. Swami told me. He I don't know about now, but he used to be into surfing all kinds of websites. So he said that there's so many dinosaur sightings in Africa, in the jungles. And then there was he showed a photo of a Japanese fishing trawler had found a monstrous, had picked up a dinosaur, actually. Not just the skeleton, but the whole thing out of the sea. And there was a photo of it. And it was sent to America for analysis, but it went missing, someone misplaced it. A dinosaur. Last time I was driving from Serbia to Croatia, Atma Booz, now Atmaban, was telling that area, it's all full of forest, and some girl used to go from Serbia to Croatia. She used to cross over for
Bosnia.
Was it Bosnia?
To Bosnia.
To meet her boyfriend. They'd meet in the forest because there were social restrictions and legal restrictions from doing so. And one day she got raped by a werewolf, so the story goes. And she gave birth to a child which was like the werewolves described in traditional folklore. So it was sent to America for investigation, and just bad luck, it went missing also. So many things go missing. There was a large, maybe more than 20 years ago, there was a large deity of Mahavishnu unearthed in Mexico, and went missing. I was in Heathrow Airport once, and some young men came up to me and they said, "Oh, where are you going?" They said, so many. I asked them where they're going. They said, "We're going dinosaur hunting in Africa. We're going to try and find some dinosaurs." There are so many things. What's that called? The Yeti. There's so many things which science doesn't accept exists. So that was the point. They say that the species are becoming extinct, but it's not in our... We can't make them extinct because the universe is not in our control. Now here's another point of research. There's so many things to research. I've heard it said that towards the end of Kali Yuga, the humans become very short, they become very small, and the other species become very big, like the nasty species. So you might, instead of chasing the cockroaches around your house to kill them, they might be chasing you around the house because they're bigger than you. So some devotee was saying, well, maybe that explains the dinosaurs then. They were like huge lizards, while the human beings were very small at the end of Kali Yuga. Could be, right? There's so many things to research. So many things. Because we have only a limited spectrum of Shastric knowledge in this present time. And another thing is that there's so much increase of useless mundane knowledge. So to explain all that in Shastric light means a lot of research work to do. Any other comments or questions? Yeah.
Dharma Prabhu said that this lizard, Mriga, when Krishna saved him, he said that the lizard was huge, and the Sanskrit word doesn't refer to lizard, so he said it might have been a dinosaur.
Mriga?
Yeah. In a well. So he said,
well, again, lizard, I mean, you say that the Sanskrit word, but there may be several Sanskrit words. Just like we have the concept of atom or species, the Vedic concept and the modern concept and elements. The Vedic concept is quite different. So it's a different perspective on science altogether. So again, it's a lot of research. Someone should do so. Where does Manu live and what's he doing? Anyone knows? While you're researching the universe, you could search that one out. I never found anyone who could say. Where does he live? Is he on Brahma Loka, or he's supposed to be the first man? Where does he live? And what is his function actually? What does he do? What's he doing nowadays? Many things to be researched. You could ask the professors if they know. I'm just giving that as an example. That many of the details, we accept Shastra, but many of the details, for the satisfaction of curious minds, it doesn't really bother me that much where Manu is. What he's doing, he's chanting Hare Krishna, no doubt. But what's his function within the universe? There are people who are curious to know these things, so could be researched. Better do it quick, because the tradition of scholarship is not what it used to be. I think it's come out of the lowest depths and it's coming up again. Thanks to Prabhupada's movement. There's revival of interest in Vedic culture. So, yeah.
Small question about this. The activities that we do in devotional service, if we don't have proper consciousness, would they be like support?
If activities are performed in proper consciousness, in devotional service, are they in the modes of nature? They're influenced by the modes of nature. That's described by Lord Kapila Dev. One who executes devotional service purely for the satisfaction of Krishna is a pure devotee. One who does so with the aim of attaining liberation from material nature is performing devotional service in the mode of goodness. One who does so as a separatist means he has a separate interest from that of serving Krishna. he does so for the sake of getting material benedictions, for material enjoyment. That's devotional service executed in Rajagun. And that which is performed with doing bhakti, but at the same time cultivating a mood which is quite opposite to bhakti, that is an envy of others, that is influenced by the mode of ignorance. So if we're not in pure consciousness, then we must axiomatically be in materialistic consciousness, which means sattvic, rajasic or tamasic, or a mixture.
What type of devotees? What type of devotees? What stage of devotees become? Devotees of pure devotion.
Pure devotional service begins and is executed on the platform of anyabhilashita shunya, that one should be at least cultivating the desire to be free of any mundane desires and to do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.